We are in Genesis chapter 6 through 9 today, looking at one of the best known accounts in all of Scripture and perhaps in all of antiquity, the account of Noah and the ark, the great flood. Virtually everybody knows at least a little bit of the details of this story. Even those that have never read it or are not Christians, who've never opened the Bible in their whole life, they know about Noah and the flood. And we have that account found in these chapters 6 through 9. And we find that as we move on, we saw a great murder that took place in chapter 4 and the moving of sin into the human race. And we see a lot of that going through chapter 4 and chapter 5. But in chapter 6, the human race is getting very, very corrupt. And the reason why the flood was necessary was because of this corruption. Let's kind of follow the storyline here. Verses 5 to 7. Then the Lord of chapter 6, then the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry he had made man on the earth. He was grieved in his heart. And he said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land. So we find the reason why God is going to bring this judgment of the flood on the earth was because of the exceedingly wickedness of humanity. So it's not long after Adam and Eve have sinned that sin begins to corrupt every aspect of the human race. And now by the time we get to chapter 6, we don't know exactly how many years this is, but we have a number of people on earth now, and they are so corrupt, so sinful, that the Lord is going to wipe them out. He's going to judge them. But there was an exception, verse 8. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Verse 9, Noah was a righteous man and blameless. In his time, Noah walked with God. So we have an exception. We have a man who has bucked the system. He has resisted the sinfulness all around him of a whole corrupt society that wants nothing to do with God and to live in a wicked way. Not Noah. Noah finds favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah is a righteous man. Noah is a man who walks with God. And therefore God determines to start over with Noah and his family, his wife and his 3 sons and their 3 wives. And so he tells them to build an ark. And we see that account going through the chapter here. And we find in chapter 6 and so forth on down that Noah does exactly what God tells him to do. He builds the ark, and then the flood comes. As the flood comes, and we are familiar with that, chapter 7 and 8, we know that Noah was told to do certain things, and Noah did them. Noah was told to build the ark. It took 120 years. He built it. Noah was told to take 2 animals of each kind and 7 of the unclean kind, or the clean kind, onto the ark. Noah did it. And so we find Noah being very exceptional about what he did. When he gets off the ark sometime later, in chapter 9, we find in verse 1, he comes off the ark, and as he does so, God basically gives him the same mandate, a very similar mandate to what he gave Adam and Eve in chapter 1, verses 26 to 28. But he says to Noah in verse 1, and God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, and the fear of you and the terror of you will be on every beast. Now notice this, verse 1 is very similar to what God told Adam to do. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and so forth. But there's some differences here between that mandate and what Noah receives. In the mandate with Adam, there was harmony in the universe. Adam named the animals. The animals were friendly to Adam. But here, the fear of you, the fear of humanity, will be on every beast. And he also says, verse 3, all these beasts will be food for you. So no wonder they're afraid of humanity. They're going to be eaten by the humanity. So we find this is a definite difference here between the two. But as God sends them out into the world, we find in chapter 9, going on down, that God gives a covenant to Noah, the Noahitic covenant, in which God promises never again to destroy the earth in this manner, by the flood. He would never do that again. And so that is the covenant, the promise God gave Noah. And he said the rainbow would be the sign of that covenant. But there is a bad seam here. In chapter 9, we find that Noah, the best man on the earth, during his time, after a period of time, he plants a vineyard, he gets drunk, he acts like a fool. His sons, at least one of his sons, and perhaps a grandson, disrespects him. The result is a curse on one of his grandsons, Canaan, who will be the forerunner of the Canaanites later on. And so sin goes on. We've started over, a new race of people, a new generation, that is, of people, and yet sin is still baked in the DNA of humanity. And Noah, the best man of his time, is no exception. He too was a sinner. So we are seeing this all flow out of the Genesis as we're looking at one step after the other of humanity. We're going to look at chapters 10 and 11 tomorrow as we move toward a pivotal point in human history.